Let me tell you a short story that I frequently remember from time to time. It all starts with this, a Nintendo DS, and this. A copy of Fire Emblem the Sacred Stones. Released in 2005, at least over here, it served as the 8th game in the franchise, taking heavy elements from Gaiden, the 2nd game in the series. But I didn't know that. All I knew that it was Fire Emblem, a really fun strategy game, and a really hard one. This was around the early 2010s. I was a soggy noodle, but one that loved playing video games. I grew up with what you probably expect from me. Nintendo games from mainly the GameCube, the Wii era, while also owning the handhelds such as the Game Boy Advance SP and Nintendo DS. I wasn't shy from Xbox and PlayStation, but my bias led me towards the definitely not cooler consoles. Growing up with siblings meant we'd often share things, and while that was applied to everything, there was one thing we couldn't really share. Handhelds. This was like the ultimate plan made by Nintendo. You couldn't really have it so kids could share a Nintendo DS, so everyone had to have one for the most enjoyable experience, and thank goodness mine still works. You would think sharing games among my siblings would be common, and while that was true, there was one game we actually owned 2 copies of. Now the reason? I don't know. I literally asked my mom why this was the case, and she was running a blank, so let's go with my fake reason. Fire Emblem the Sacred Stones was one of those games that hit the sweet spot for me in terms of RPGs. An intriguing story, awesome characters, and a system where you level up your units to be stronger got me so engaged in it. I've beaten the game so many times now that's pretty much become muscle memory to me. I learned almost everything about the game. The secret shop, the super trainees, the 2-point RNG system, the enemy control glitch. It was my favorite game. Me and my brother loved the game so much that we got 2 copies of it because we both wanted to keep playing it. That's the fake reason I totally made up, but it's probably true because there's no other way to explain why we had 2 of the same game. I'm sadly no longer into Fire Emblem like I used to. My sister has picked up the pace playing the later games, and it was only a few years ago I fully completed Free House and all its endings. There was recently a Sacred Stones revamp mod that came out that I really want to play because of its changes. Maybe I might do a video on it? Anyway, back to the story. I was a dumb kid back then. I would send my units to die almost instantly and completely ignore aspects such as the weapon triangle and the fact priests cannot fight. It's a good thing Seth is genuinely overpowered because he carried me through almost 99% of my runs. I think it was only after 10 full playthroughs that I was like, wait, the other characters can be good too. Sometimes I wonder if I wasn't spoiled and I instead grew up on Fire Emblem 7 where Marcus, while also overpowered, would humble me very slightly. For those that don't play Fire Emblem, usually in every game you get one strong unit that can carry you for early game, but they're intended not to last the whole way through, so you focus on other units. For some games, however, like Sacred Stones, the strong unit can last throughout the entire game. Pay attention to what I say about Seth though later on. Erica, one of the main characters you control, was a character I would almost never train in my early playthroughs because of how scared I was. She can level up to become somewhat reliable, but my model back then was, if low HP, bye. I judged all my unit strength on how much health they had. They could get a stat increase in every single spot, but if HP wasn't a part of it, useless level up. That's why Seth was good, because almost every time he leveled up HP. All the other units were practically useless. I think it was 2013, maybe 2014. I know it was before 2015 because it was before I did YouTube videos on my old YouTube channel. At this time, I was switching between using my 3DS and my DS, as 3DS sadly couldn't play GBA games even though it technically could with the Nintendo Ambassador System. My mom actually was a part of the Ambassador System because our family was dedicated to Nintendo back then. It's how I played Metroid Fusion originally. Anyway, because of me swapping handhelds all the damn time and then playing a Wii U, my memory is hazy. It's so hazy in fact that the story I'm about to tell you is completely devoid of the beginning segment. I'm about to play Sacred Stones on my Nintendo DS, and when I open up my save file, I am on Chapter 6, Victim of War, also known as the first fog level. I go in, see the cutscene where a family is surrounded by the giant spider, and go to the unit's preparation screen. So this is where the story begins. For some reason, only Erica and Seth are alive, and to recreate this core memory, I had to kill everyone off to gather visuals for this video. I don't know how they died, I don't know when they died, but for some reason only Erica and Seth were alive. I knew I was dumb, but I didn't know that I was that dumb. The chapters weren't even that hard, so I don't know how that happened. Now the story doesn't end there, although that would be a funny ass memory to end off of. What happens next is what's been stuck in my head for a while now. So instead of giving up and just starting a new save file, I decided to just persevere. I remember everything. I remember Erica being a low level with only a rapier, and Seth with only a silver lance as the steel sword just broke, I guess. I always moved Seth to the right at the start of the chapter, grabbing an iron blade that I used to quickly beat the chapter. I couldn't spare Erica staying around for too long or else she'd instantly die. After beating the chapter, I move on to chapter 7 that isn't too hard. Then chapter 8 gets a bit difficult since Seth is only around, but Ephraim and the others join in. Pretty simple. We beat the chapter and a path split happens, where you can either choose to go with Ephraim or go with Erica. Ephraim was the hard route, so I always choose Erica. I move on to chapter 9 where we recruit Tana, but I get a bit tired, so I quit the game and do other things. A few days later, I come back and check the save file, and I'm on chapter 6. not chapter 9. So I'm confused. Did I not save? Did I make a mistake? I go inside to make sure, and it's definitely my save file since everyone was dead except Erica and Seth, but I'm on chapter 6 again. I think it's a mistake, so I redo chapter 6, get the Iron Blade, beat the chapter as soon as possible, get the Ryan's Bolt that I can't use except sell for money, and by the way, if you're curious on how I easily beat this chapter, it's because I used to play in easy and normal mode. I move on to chapter 7 and take a break. I turn on my DS later on, and chapter 6. Now this is where the concerning part starts kicking in. I beat chapter 6, I beat chapter 7, I beat chapter 8, I chose Erica's route. I turn off my DS, I turn it back on, chapter 6. Iron Blade, Orion Bolt, Erica route. Iron Blade, Orion Bolt, Erica route. Iron Blade, Orion Bolt, Ephraim route. The same thing still happened. Why was I getting reset here? I'm being very careful with my wording because I want to talk about the potential reasons later on, but for some odd reason, my save file was constantly resent to chapter 6 and there was nothing I could do about it. It was so bizarre, and back then I treated it at face value. If that happened now, I'd probably consult GameFAQs or think I was in a creepypasta, but no. My mind just went, oh, okay, I guess my save file is being saved. Guess I should go as far as I can. And that's what I did. Instead of solving the issue, I just adapted to what the game was telling me to. I would play the game as long as I can before I quit and have the whole cycle repeat again. Over and over and over again. Why? Why did I do this? I'm asking my past self this, by the way. To extend my game time, I would shut my DS and charge it while leaving it on to ensure I didn't lose any progress. What was going on that made me unable to save? I'm not just talking about the technical reason for why, but what was in my head that made me just accept it? I could have used the other cartridge or created a new save file, but for some reason, I just kept going at it. I kept replaying the chapters over and over until I had a consistent strategy that didn't rely on RNG. I guess I just had so much time in my hands back then that I just completely ignored it. Ooh, a fun challenge for myself is probably what I thought. But looking back at it now, something about it sticks with me. I mean, the fact that this video is all about it shows that it did have some impact on me, and like with all my other videos, I try to look deep into things that don't really seem like they matter. There were plenty of other things that could have taken up my time. Pokemon, YouTube, or whatever other game I could pour hours into. I was still playing Super Mario Galaxy 2, yet I chose Sacred Stones over all of it. I used up useless electricity just to charge the DS for it. Why? I don't know. If I got a chance to ask past Noodle what the hell they were doing, they probably wouldn't give a solid answer. I remember getting pissed off at constantly resetting over and over, so I don't know why I kept going with it. Whenever I think of the memory, I for one think it was stupid of me to do that, but at the same time it feels memorable and like a sense of accomplishment. Like I was put in a really bad situation, yet I didn't give up or take the easy path. I really tried. I got to around chapter 10 before having other things take up my time. A long time passed after that, and when I got back to playing Sacred Stones, the save file was already gone, so I guess I actually decided to erase at some unknown point that I can't recall anymore. The words I gave myself talking about how I didn't give up or leave that save file for dead don't really matter anymore because of what I know happens later on. It only applies in that self-contained moment where I kept playing those chapters over and over again. So what exactly happened? This is a question I've been wondering for years, and with this video, I actually decided to do some research. But first, let's go over what didn't happen. The wording of this video implied that maybe, just maybe, I didn't save. Now, is that true? Fuck no! Why the hell would I do that to myself? Now here's the thing, if there were no glitches or hacks or malfunctions, that is quite literally the only explanation. If I didn't save, it would explain why I kept getting reset back to chapter 6. It doesn't make sense though. I specifically remember getting angry and annoyed at getting reset, so if that was the case, why was I doing that? Did I hate myself? I mean, a little bit, but not enough of this psychological torture. I have to rule this possibility out. I definitely saved, I know that deep in my heart, but not in my brain because my memory is really bad. The only other conclusion is that something to do with the game cartridge itself, and this is why I actually dove into some research. This is where the story gets interesting. I'm joking, it's not that interesting. Many of the forums dedicated to saving issues in Sacred Stones mostly came from emulators and bootlegs, which doesn't really help since I used official hardware. At least I think so. Wouldn't it be fucked up if it turned out my childhood Sacred Stones cartridge was a bootleg? That'd be something. Throughout my research, there were only a couple forums that had some sense of answer. Most had the same issue. They saved their file, but their progress wasn't being saved. For the case of one, it revolved around their suspend points not being saved, which are essentially temporary save points when you have to take a break or your game suddenly closes. Either way, something wasn't being saved. Issues were pointed towards the battery inside the cartridge not working. Now, the Fire Emblem GBA games don't have a normal battery chip like other games. Instead, they have a memory chip that I assume is done to keep track of all the movements done in game for suspend points. Those, according to some people, can occasionally be faulty, and it's definitely more faulty in bootlegs. I did encounter two people that had almost the exact same issue as mine. One of them had their save file not saved to start a game. Whenever they saved a new file, it would simply spin and say new game, but continue on, acting as if it did save. The other person had a similar issue where they saved, played a game, stopped, and when they came back, it was like their saving never existed. They specifically recall it happening in chapter 10 and 11. This case is very intriguing for one particular reason. A reason that immediately raises a lot of questions that go beyond cartridge malfunctions. This happened on the Nintendo 3DS via the Ambassador program. This happened on an official Nintendo emulator. Some people think the SD card might have been full or something, but regardless, this is the one case that perfectly aligns with mine, having your data not be saved despite you definitely doing so. Their case was a lot more recent as well, dating back to 2020. Sadly, an answer was not found at the end of the forum, with the user giving up. So was it an emulator issue or a cartridge issue? Two issues that are very similar yet on completely different platforms. Perhaps my cartridge was misaligned and it caused the memory chip to move just so slightly not to save my file. To test this video, I decided to launch my cartridge on my old DS just to see if anything changed. I know it still works, but I just want to make sure. It was kind of a hassle charging my DS, but ultimately the game is up and god, this is so nostalgic. I still have my stupid creature campaign playthroughs that serve zero purpose now since I have all the characters. This save file has been my brother's for over a decade now. For some reason I can't find it in me to delete it. I remember it being an unwritten rule that I'm not able to delete it, so rest in peace to one of my creature campaign files, you will be missed. So I quickly go through the prologue in chapter 1 just to have some fun. I save and let's quit just to see what happens. God, this Nintendo DS is a lot smaller than I thought. Growing up sucks. Anyway, we launch up and yep, that's pretty much what I expect. I guess it was all a dream. And that's a short story from yours truly. Just a memory I have that's been lingering in my head for quite a while, and hopefully by making this video, something can happen. Maybe someone else has similar experience. In a world where we can search up our answers at any point, it's interesting to think of a time where we didn't do that, because we were stupid, or maybe just took things at face value. You know, what do you do when you can't do anything? You just gotta accept it? Very bizarre. Act Rock, what does this mean?